We'll start off with the anxious attachment style. What does it look like in adulthood? With the anxious attachment style, as I mentioned in the examples I was giving, incessant phone calls, incessant text messages repeatedly, back to back. Sometimes you call a person and they don't pick up and your first thought is, are they angry with me? Is our relationship in trouble? A person with an anxious attachment style often fears that emotional connection will be taken away from them. So there's often this idea of clinginess or neediness. We describe people who have an anxious attachment style that way. There's always this need for validation. Today you didn't tell me you love me. You usually say it every day. Is everything okay? What's going on? Are you upset with me? Are you trying to break up with me? There's always this fear that love is going to be withdrawn. There's always this fear that the relationship is going to be taken away from them. So they often present as very jealous. They often present as untrusting. They find it difficult to trust people, to trust that people will remain consistent in their lives. But the unfortunate thing is that the very behaviors that they exhibit, not intentionally, because there's a real concern about losing the relationship, but the behaviors they exhibit often cause a person who doesn't have the tools to withdraw. And then it confirms their concerns in the first place. But why would a person be this way? Why would they feel this way? Why would they act this way? As I mentioned earlier on, these things develop at a very early stage in life. And a lot of it has to do with how the caregiver showed up for them in their emotional needs and emotional connection. This is where the anxiety usually comes from. There are times when people say, oh, leave the child to cry, otherwise you spoil them. Now, sometimes you pick up the child and you comfort the child. Other times you leave the child to cry. Eventually, it gets to a point where this inconsistent show of emotional connection, emotional comfort, leaves the child feeling anxious because they don't know when they'll get love and they don't know when they won't. I think another very good example is, remember when we were kids and our parents were going out, or whoever was caring for us was going out and we wanted to go with them. What was the thing they would do to us? Oh, go and wear your shoes. Go and change. What you're wearing is not good for where we're going. So go and change. I'm waiting for you. And then you, in all your happiness that I'm going to go with this person, you go to your room, run and grab your slippers or your shoes. And you come out and guess what? They're gone. What happens? As time goes on, each time your parent is going, there's this idea that I'm getting left behind. You can't trust their word, because if they say, go and wear your slippers, I'll wait for you, you'll come back and you won't find them there. This type of behavior, we actually see it in gambling, slot machines, right? The fact that sometimes you win something and other times you won't keeps you trying, keeps you believing, keeps you hoping. But there's this anxiety that, oh, what if I don't get? What if I don't get? Or what if I do get? So it's like, let me keep trying. Let me keep looking for affection. Let me keep clinging. Let me keep holding on, because maybe I'll get lucky. Sport betting, one of the reasons why it's doing so well is some people get lucky. So it's always, I might get lucky. And so a person with an anxious attachment style has learned to always cling, always be needy, because if I keep trying, I might actually get that validation. I might actually get that affirmation. Even though sometimes I don't get it, I have to keep trying. So when you have someone like that in your life, or that's you, I'm sharing this information for you not to sit down and diagnose yourself and feel bad, or look at the person and say, I see. Petrina said it, you have an anxious attachment style. That's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this information that I'm sharing is for you to understand that you didn't up and decide on your own to behave this way. Society taught you to behave this way. Society didn't teach you to be trusting because society wasn't honest with you. And again, we're not vilifying our parents, because mind you, they didn't have the tools. They were also brought up by their parents and their parents' parents, and it's the same type of thing that they went through. But this is where we're sharing the tea so we can break the cycle. So a person with an anxious attachment style, again, there's this deep fear of losing the emotional connection. So everything they do is out of a fear of losing the person. An interesting thing about this style is that people like that often choose people who have the avoidant attachment style. So they're complementary. And when something is complementary, it doesn't mean that it's the same. It usually means that what one lacks, the other one has, so they kind of fit well together. So think about it. You have this person who comes across as needy and clingy, who has paired with someone who has the avoidant style. And as the name says, this person has learned to be avoidant. They hardly text, they hardly call back, they can be by themselves for days. If it seems as though whether you reach out or not, they'll be fine. Once in a while, you might see, them come out of their comfort zones, but most of the time, they seem aloof, they seem disconnected in the context of a relationship.